right. We're here at Cannabis Europa with Business Cannabis Podcast, coming at you live from the Barbican Centre. We have an esteemed guest. My name is Shahbaaz. I'm your host today. We have the wonderful Arthur de Cordova.
Not many people get the last name right, Shahbaaz. That's very good.
De Cordova.
You must have a little Spanish in your background.
Sí, obvio. Tell us a little bit about yourself, my man.
Sure.
I had a chance to speak with you for 2 minutes before this, and I got to say, I feel like you and I can talk for
we're getting going.
10 hours. So we'll try and fit it in with 20 minutes. Yeah. But tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey.
So first time here at Cannabis Europa. We are a U.S.-based company, Ziel. And we've been in the cannabis business for 7 years in North America with a technology that comes from the food industry. So that's our core business. We pasteurize food using radio frequency technology. And we were tapped 7 years ago by the largest outdoor cannabis farm in the United States at the time, Los Sueños. Colorado had just gone adult use. And they had 40 acres that wasn't going to pass microbial testing. And they needed a solution. They looked around at everything, and they settled on us, and we said, what do you do? And they go, we grow cannabis. And I go, that doesn't sound like almonds or chia seeds, but let's give it a go. And it's really become a large part of our business. So today in cannabis, we're across North America. We're in Europe, not in South America yet for cannabis, but we shall be. But we're very happy to be here in in Europe, and bringing our knowledge from the North American market to what's going to be a really exciting journey here in Europe.
Big time. And so that's wonderful, and how, fate aligns and the stars align to have that, happen. And now it's obviously a large part of your organization and large vertical for you. How would you split that in terms of, cannabis versus everything else?
Right. So when we acquired the company 7 years ago, it was just food. And then this opportunity came for the Colorado market. And we said, wait a minute. Let's see, the California almond market took 50 years to get to $2 billion. The Colorado market in cannabis took 2 years to get to $2 billion. Let's see, which market do we want to be in? And with 49 states to go. So we're at 34 states.
Wow.
So it's a huge market opportunity compared to our niche seeds business, which we love, and those are our roots. But, the rocket ship is cannabis. And we've got the best solution on the market. And again, we're just taking that solution to Europe now.
So we're going to get into the European market in a second, and some of the perspectives, some of the markets that you're bullish on, and where you're seeing some of the opportunities. But let's talk a little bit about the U.S. market for a second. You have a wealth of knowledge in the U.S. market. And recently there's been, some large news on the proposed rescheduling. If that happens, still a long journey, but what are the indications, and what's the impact of that rescheduling overall on all these different U.S. markets?
Right. So beginning with the U.S. market, the rescheduling, I think Stephen in his opening remarks this morning called it U.S. is on the cusp. It's got a few more traps to go through, but of course the DEA endorsement of the Health Human Services was a big, gating accomplishment. And now it's just going to public comment and then, final rulemaking. So we're not there yet.
No.
But the implications, and then we pivot to the European market in a second, what the implications are. But the implications for the North American market are principally benefit the operators, the cultivators. Of course, everyone talks about the 280E goes away. It's going to make a huge financial difference. Companies that are teetering on the edge of cash flow positive, will move into the black. Some are already doing that, even with the burden of 280E.
Yeah.
But what's not catching people's attention is that, hey, we're getting rid of the IRS rule. That's great. What they don't realize, door number 2 is the FDA. And so for now, it's been a patchwork quilt of regulatory compliance throughout all the states. No harmonization, no consistency. So when the FDA gets the wheel, they're gonna write the rule book.
Big time.
And so people aren't really aware what is coming down the line. So if you haven't come out of the pharmaceutical business, and I was country manager for AstraZeneca, I understand the true regulatory framework, but it's going to have severe impact for those not ready for it. So I'll give you a simple example in California versus Michigan. So the microbial control standards are different, and you need to pass them to get to market. You don't pass, you don't sell. Well, California made a choice to have very light restrictions on microbial. It's just Aspergillus, E. coli, and Salmonella. But in Michigan, it's those three, plus coliforms, TYMC, TAMC, and in other states, BTGN. So if you've been operating on, I'll call it regulatory light in California, and the FDA comes in and says, we're just going to pick the lowest common denominator, I mean the hardest one, which is what most states are doing, you're going to have a wake-up call.
Yeah. Wow. When you put it into that perspective, it almost makes you think, is maybe a controversial point, but is rescheduling really, the right play? And further to that, is federal legalization the right play?
Well, the old adage, be careful what you ask for.
Yeah.
Again, people aren't thinking about the implications of the FDA moving from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3. And so the benefits, financial benefits for sure, but your business is going to have to address the regulatory compliance that's coming down the line. And of course, from our perspective, we use radio frequency, which is a non-ionizing solution. And the FDA has a very strong view of if you use an ionizing or X-ray, or which is X-ray, gamma, or E-beam, you have to have product labeling with the Redura symbol. So if you've been using one of those technologies, all of a sudden that impacts your labeling. And the consumer is going to see on the jar of flour treated with ionizing radiation. If you're the branding executive at a large multi-state operator, you do not want to have that on your jar.
You definitely don't want to have that on the jar. So, I mean, in theory, it sounds, if we pull back, it sounds like, all right, great, FDA coming in, standardizing everything, from someone in your perspective that has to manage, regulatory compliance across 34 different states. It seems like having kind of one regulatory body to work through feels like it might be.
At the end of the day, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
If you're our host, Curaleaf, you have 34 different regulatory departments. You have 34 different operations in each state. If you're in all 34, I think they're in 15 or 16-ish. But any MSO, they have to have created essentially a silo business unit in each state. Mm-hmm. So you need to, tailor everything you do to that state's requirements.
Yeah.
So their life's actually going to be a lot easier.
Yeah.
They're going to just tell us what the rules are. And so, we don't want to have to adapt one state to this, one state to that. Let's just harmonize it. So it will be a good thing. But for those not ready for it, it's going to be a bit of brain damage.
The labyrinth continues to get more and more complex. So right now, with the news of rescheduling in general, obviously still a lot of dots to dot, and a lot of I's to dot, and a lot of T's to cross. What does that news mean for Europe today?
Sure. So let's Germany, which they got it done April 1st. They beat the states, mm-hmm. And so the beneficiaries of the April 1st cannabis reform law in Germany are a number of stakeholders. So as was discussed this morning in the opening remarks, Germany versus the UK, you've got right on top destigmatization. Mm-hmm. It's now a Schedule 3 drug. It's no longer a narcotic. So broader acceptance. You have a tenfold increase in the prescribing base of doctors, because to prescribe a narcotic, is a very limited pool.
Yeah.
There is a lot of handling issues for pharmacies handling narcotics. It gets easier for them. And it's better for the patients. And it's better for the operators. So everybody wins in the rescheduling. The U.S. market, there's only really one winner, the operators. Mm-hmm. The patients, because it's effectively an OTC market, a retail market.
Yeah.
You don't need prescribing.
No.
But so the German law, if we look at that as the first pebble in the EU pond, plus UK, it was a seismic change. And, be very interesting to see which countries follow Germany's lead and do the same. And that's where the predictions get wild. I can't make any, but they're all looking at it. And, it makes it easier for a politician to do something if somebody else has done it before them. Mm-hmm. It's harder for the first country to do that. It's going to be easier for numbers 2, 3, 4. So more is to come.
So I know we said no predictions, but I got to ask.
Which country?
Which country? Which countries do you feel have the right or will have the right mix of, a regulatory framework that wants to follow suit, compiled with, the right ecosystem for investment and commerce? Like who is that next European nation? Because I've been sitting here for the last couple hours talking to different people, and I don't think there's one consensus.
Well, I'm going to take a different angle on it. I think it's bifurcated. It depends if it's on the demand side, UK, Germany, or the supply side. So they both have to work together. But if you look at the European countries, the supplying countries, the German cannabis reform law is creating more demand. It's a low base. Some say 20 tons last year, maybe 30 tons. Aurora just had its earnings call and says, hey, we're not seeing the growth in Germany. We're only seeing 20 to 30% increase. Other people are predicting it's going to be a double. So predictions are all over the place. But the clear winners are the people exporting to the UK and Germany. Mm-hmm. And those are Canada.
Yep.
Those are Barbican in the Netherlands.
Yep.
They are Portugal. They are low-cost producers. Macedonia, another one. So, all those periphery countries, the supply countries, are feeding the demand. And the demand countries are import markets. So Germany, if it was 30 tons last year and you had the 3 local producers that were limited to 1 ton, 27 tons were imported. And same in UK. So those are both import-driven markets because the domestic markets, they're building them, it shall come. But for years to come, the balance is going to be those 2 countries are importers.
Yeah.
And those 2 countries are accelerating demand because of regulatory changes. So who's the short-term winner? The supply countries, who have built up their operations and have GACP and GMP facilities, which are a prerequisite to supplying to those markets.
Yeah, and I mean, you nailed it with, Canadian LPs like Decibel, Organigram, Pure Sun Farms, a lot of exports into the UK, into Germany. And so, why doesn't the UK take off eventually? Why, what will stall Germany? I mean, what's going to be the thing that doesn't allow these markets to grow at the pace that they need to?
The demand will be there. Demand is there. It's a question of, if I understand your question, we're talking about the domestic supply, about
Correct. Yeah.
Taking over. Investment climate. Will they attract institutional money? Will they? Because in the United States, until you get federal approval, institutional money is off the table.
Yeah, it's tough.
So will institutional money, come here? We have we have a financing partner in Portugal. It's a big financial institution, and because of a better market here, we'll do leases and financing of your equipment, no problem. But that's a very scant market in the United States. Mm-hmm. Now it's changing, but so I think it'll be driven by the investment climate, and they'll say, is the demand there? Yes. Can they build it? Can they grow it, produce it cheaper here in Germany or UK than, say, a low-cost exporter from Colombia can?
Yeah.
So the market will decide, but I don't see any barriers to growth. But other than, is the business case there?
Yeah.
To grow domestic product.
Big time. And it's funny, like in Colombia, you can throw, and you can throw an orange seed and an orange tree will, sprout up, right?
Five harvests a year outdoors.
So let's talk about South America for a second, right? Because, Ziel's not currently doing any work in South America. Help us, help our audience understand a little bit more. We've been talking a lot about Europe, North America, but help us understand the South American market from your perspective today.
People forget that the first country in the world to federally approve cannabis was Uruguay.
Uruguay,
right?
Yeah.
Right? And you don't hear about Uruguay, but they've got GMP facilities there. But of course, Colombia has hundreds of farms, but there's a choke point. There's one. There may be more coming. One GMP processor. So a topic that is not my area of expertise, but you'll hear a lot of it about is GMP washing.
GMP washing.
Washing.
Ooh, okay.
So, in short, that means if you're a GACP Colombia producer and you want to sell into Europe and you need you need to be GMP processed facility, you would, ship your product to a GMP facility here in Germany.
Malta maybe as well, or just Germany?
No, Germany, fine, or Portugal, or other places, and they'll process it here and then go to market. So, Colombia, there's a gap. They don't have the GMP processing.
Is that bottleneck?
It's a bottleneck, but Colombian product is a low cost producer.
Big
Land,
yeah,
great sun, great conditions. I can't speak to the quality of it, but it's again, why wouldn't someone invest in a German production? Well, they're going to look at competitive threats around the world.
Yeah.
So the market will determine whether it's a worthy product or not.
Wow, that so many moving parts. How do you keep up with all of it?
Talking with smart guys like you.
How do you keep up with all of it? It's so. Let's go back to. Okay, so if we're looking at a map, we have obviously Europe and a variety of different countries in there. We got UK. We talked a little bit. I brought up Malta a little bit because Malta was kind of that first frontier. Obviously Germany, Switzerland's doing some big things, right, medicinally right now, and they're opening up some clinics, I believe, right? Who's a sleeper country in the EU today that no one's really thinking about? I know you mentioned Macedonia from a supply side, but
I don't know enough about it, but I keep on hearing Poland.
Poland,
I keep on hearing Poland. I hear it's a hard market to get into, but once you get into it, it's a great market. But ask Boris Jordan about it.
Ask Boris.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'll add that to my list. So as the country manager for AstraZeneca, and now obviously leading Ziel over the last few years, and driving substantial growth across all these different markets, and being honestly a foremost player on the knowledge. I mean, you can't. There's your knowledge, Arthur, isn't in textbooks, right? Like it's just not in textbooks. It's on this podcast. It's in it's in the ether now. And it's going to be on YouTube, and you can't buy this knowledge. And so I want to ask you, if you had a magic wand and you could wave it right now for anything in the world as it relates to your business, what would that be?
I'd like to put the horse back in the barn in the United States and make it a medical market again.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, you got the United States has the medical market, it has the hemp market, you got the Delta 8 market, you got it's a crazy market. How do you keep up with all of it?
So I didn't mention it where I was country manager. I was in Russia in the 1990s, and the cannabis market today reminds me of Russia in the 90s. And initially the 90s was where Boris Jordan cut his teeth.
Yeah.
He made a lot more money than I did.
Yeah.
But we both cut our teeth in these very volatile markets. And when there's volatility, there's opportunity for the brave. And I think that the U.S. market and the cannabis market in general is that Wild West. And truly, the horse bolted out of the barn, beginning with Colorado adult use. And there's a lot of yahoos, in the market. I will say that the European companies are our customers. There's not a single cannabis operation that looks like the quality of the facilities that the Europeans have. And
That's
so,
what I've heard,
coming from AstraZeneca, GMP is your mantra. GMP is just in your DNA. And you go to some of these facilities, whether it's Macedonia or Portugal, and you walk in these clean rooms, and you don't see this in America. And so the level of quality, the level of attention, they're building pharmaceutical companies here. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I really applaud the companies doing that. It's a longer haul. I mean, in the States, you can put up a couple of lights, get a license, and then, be in the market. Maybe not for long, but it's a much lower barrier to entry.
It's funny. It's funny you mentioned that, because one of the things I actually wrote on LinkedIn of coming into this that I was curious about is how the European continent is going to straddle that line between recreational and medical, right? And what that's actually going to look like. And it sounds like, from your perspective, Europe's going medical, focusing on that. Their facilities are focused on that, but
I'm sure from a business side, and again, another question to ask Boris, like, why are you so gung-ho about Europe, Boris? I mean, you're a big multi-state operator.
Yeah.
Huge volumes in the United States, billion in revenue, just in the United States, and this is a minuscule market. Yeah, I mean, looking over the horizon, it's going to be a large market. I suspect, like in the prescription pharmaceutical business, your margins are going to be protected, high barriers to entry, regulatory, building these facilities, not easy to get into. So I'm sure no one on the business side is going to be advancing recreational use, because that's kind of a race to the bottom and get price compression.
Pricing compression through and through. Another topic that you and I are going to have to jump back on and talk about. Man, you're knowledgeable. I just learned a bunch from you. I appreciate that. Thanks for the conversation, Arthur. Any last thoughts or anything that you want to leave our listeners and our subscribers
I'm
with?
here to learn. It's some great people on here. I heard a great discussion this morning. I hope these talks are on the website or YouTube, because the one I heard this morning from the Prohibition Partners guys and the analysis of Germany and the UK was excellent. And so I'm here to learn, and it's a great agenda.
Great, and I'm happy to hear that. I mean, a guy like you who's constantly opening up, learning with as much knowledge as you have. I mean, it's better, never best in this industry, and speaks volumes to your leadership style. So appreciate that. And you got your talk tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow morning.
All right.
Steve and I on stage.
All right, can't wait.
Thank you.
Thanks, Arthur. Appreciate the time, my man.